Good morning, everybody. It's HALICUE. This is the Tarot Journal. So, it's Tarot Tuesday, and it's around 9-ish, between 9 to 9:30. The tarot energy that we're going to be investigating today is a very good one. The Nine of Wands. Everybody go to your deck, grab your Nine of Wands. Let's get into a little bit of this fire energy today. And if anyone needs a tool to help them journal today, just going up to the link right above my head, tap on it, the one that says you deserve this tarot moment, because you do. You deserve this moment with you and your deck. We're going to use it today. We're going to use it as a portal to explore our own deep inner universe. And we're going to do it together. We're going to do it in a way that is safe and that I hope you feel held. And that's also fun, because if tarot wasn't fun, I don't think I'd spend this much time doing it. I wouldn't make it the way, that I'd earn my living. We're going to have a wonderful time today. So just to do a little housekeeping, welcome. Good morning, everybody. It would be so great if you ping in people that might also need this moment. A mindfulness moment, a moment with a very, very cool and fun spiritual tool, the tarot or oracle deck. You're in the Tarot Power Soul Club. I'd love for you to tap that little green chateau. Join us. This is our home on Clubhouse. It's a place where we enliven and invigorate the conversation around all things intuitive art, all things tarot. This is our most intimate moments with the tarot. This is certainly the most intimate moment that I share with folks with the tarot. So tap that little chateau, get into this world, download your tarot journal. It's a one-pager. It's very simple. This is just something that I create for my tarot students, and I offer it up to my community here on Clubhouse. Ping folks in, share the room, and just to get things started this morning, to kind of get our juices flowing, as we set our sacred space. Why don't you go into the chat? Tell me what's in your sacred space today. I feel that an altar or any place we're calling a sacred space really just requires the intentional bringing together of the elements: earth, air, fire, water. And those elements are, as the name suggests, elemental, very simple. I've got an Nalgene bottle full of water. I'm burning my sister Tallulah O's commune candle. My feet are grounded for earth. What am I missing? Oh, for air, I always have a little bit of incense, and there's some remaining wisps of some delicious lavender and Palo Santo smoke I had going earlier. So what are y'all doing? What's helping you create your sacred space? I'm going to let everyone take a few moments just to, are you typing your journal? Are you just listening to this? Are you sketching? Just a few moments to, figure out how it is you're going to work through our session today. And I can't wait to get started talking about it. This card came up when my sister and I were podcasting. I am the co-creator and the co-host of a awesome podcast called The Pillars of Person the Path. And this card came up as we were recording 2 episodes, and it was all about love. So I got some things to say about it. I hope y'all do too. And if everyone's done making their final arrangements, like getting their space together, let's get going. I'm just going to guide us through about, 8 or 9 prompts today, and we're going to journal. This is my most intimate moments with the tarot. I started this room, the tarot journal, when I decided that, social audios like Clubhouse, apps like it are where I really like to create, where I like to connect. And I really wanted to begin to not just do kind of crazy, gigantic, free readings rooms, but I really wanted to get into an intimate space as safely as I could with people and bring y'all into my most intimate moments with the tarot. So welcome. And who even am I? As my friend Karen down there says, I love the way she says that on her website, like in the about section, like, who even am I? Who even am I? I'm HALICUE Hannah. I am an intuitive counselor and advisor for women and women identified people. I am a professional tarot reader. That means I read for people professionally. I do divinations. I do readings at two of the most beautiful brick and mortars in the Bay Area, Botanical Life in Larkspur and the Scarlet Sage in San Francisco. Um, and I also read for people virtually. Um, I'm also a tarot educator. I'm one of the heads of faculty for the landofverse.com and their 2-year tarot certification course, including a practitioner year 1 course and individual certification. And I also teach individual workshops with different brick and mortars and different organizations. I'll put a link up to my newest one a little bit later. And I'm also a tarot content creator, especially on social audio and on podcasts. I am a podcaster. I am the co host of 2 podcasts. The first one is called The Pillars, the Porch, and the Path. That is a podcast that I co host and I co create with my sister. Um, Andy Anderson of Tallulah Ohio Lifestyle. She is an intention Chandler, and she's the second oldest sister in my family of 6. Whoops, the podcast started playing. I did not mean to do that. So sorry, y'all. Trying to get you all the link for it because a brand new episode just dropped this morning. And this newest episode is part 2 of a 3-part series on love magic. Last week's episode was on getting your mindset right for love work and how to bring in the love relationship that you want. This week's episode is on correspondences, all the yummy stuff. This is where we really get to be creative spiritually. We go through all of our favorite botanicals for love, our favorite herbs, our favorite stones, minerals, tarot cards, color magic, all of those things that we kind of bring together and we use to engage our senses, sight, sound, taste, smell, to begin to create our magic, especially magic around love. As you can imagine, it's a very sweet pink and red hot episode. So y'all get into it. It's available on every platform where you enjoy listening to podcasts. And I'm also the co-host and the co-creator of a brand new podcast. It's called Magical Motherhood that will be launching very, very, very soon. I'm going to put the link up to that later on as we journal. And I'm also a podcasting blogger. I'd love for y'all to head over to my website, I almost said my sister's website, www.thegildedapsara.com. That's where you look at all of my tarot services, all of the readings, and all of my blog posts as well. It's also where you schedule readings with me. So I'll be putting all of these links up. But right now, I am ready to get into it. For today's card, I'd love for you all to show me your cards as well. I'm giving you 2 versions of the card today. If you guys PTR, and if you're new to Clubhouse, that just means taking your finger all the way to the top, swiping down, and look at my profile picture, you'll see two different images of the 9 of Wands. Both of them are based, obviously, as you can see, or maybe not so obviously. For those of you that may be, kind of new tarot enthusiasts, these are both cards that are depictions and renditions of the classic Rider-Waite Smith illustrations on the tarot. So, but I gave you 2 versions. I wanted to give you a version from the teaching deck that I use, the Radiant Rider-Waite, and I also wanted to give you a version from one of my new favorite decks, the African Tazama Tarot. Those are the 2 images, so take a look, especially if you don't have your own deck. Let me see Karen's. I see Shivanji is showing me. Oh, lovely. I can't wait to hear about that one, Shivanji, because that looks like a staircase. That's very cool. Let me see if Luna, let me see if Luna's got hers up. Hey, Luna. All right. This is awesome. Everybody get ready. Let's get started. Let's go ahead and get started with today's card and today's date. Just write them down. Write them down. Speak them aloud if you're not writing anything down. Today's card, the 9 of Wands. And today's date, I believe, is the 17th. And sometimes it's fun to even just write down, like, what do you know, especially if you're a new enthusiast or you're thinking about getting ready to read for other people. It's kind of like, how do you feel when you first see it? How do you feel? What are your initial impressions? What are your first reactions? Even if it is something rote, like wands, corresponds to the element fire. It's a 9, so it means we're at the end of a cycle. or getting close to the end of something. What are those first impressions? And, your first impressions are not supposed to be, or at least this is my feeling, it's not supposed to be only what you really remember, or not even what your keywords and key phrases. It also needs to be how you're feeling about it. Like, oh, is that me? Is that somebody else? Is that who I'm dealing with? Is that situation? Let's get that stuff down too. Those first impressions. Give yourself a few moments with this. Not too much, but it's kind of like, doing a prompt like this is kind of like when you're, you if there's someone that you kind of unload to regularly. My sister and I do that. My sister Andy and I, like, oh girl, hey girl, what's going on? Yeah. I know, the kids are doing this, or Hallie went to prom. How was that, girl? Ugh, this is what's happening at work. Da 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 da. Can you believe this? Blah 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 blah. Or this is what's going on the sister group chat. Can you? Or what's going on politically? It's kind of that, ugh, da, 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 this is how I'm feeling about this. This is my first reaction. I really, really encourage you to do that. Use this time for that, and do it because you may want to go back to it at the end of the week. I hope on a Saturday or a Sunday, y'all go back and kind of look over your journaling and, like, see if anything, see if anything came up for you. So initial impressions. Now let's get into keywords and phrases. Y'all know I like doing keywords and phrases. Why do I like them? Why does she like them? She likes them because I know at some point some of y'all that hang out in here with me regularly, and those of you that are just hearing this, whether it's on my new podcast or on a different app or on our YouTube channel, you're gonna become very familiar with why I like keywords and phrases. I like that because that's where everybody starts. That's kind of really where you begin, especially if you're thinking about reading for other people. It takes on an entirely different, depth. There's a different heaviness, in a good way, but there's a little bit of a responsibility, right, with reading for other people. So your keywords and phrases are super important. So if we're looking at the 9 of Wands, what are some of the keywords and phrases? And there's some good ones with this one. Maybe battle weary. A girlfriend of mine used to say walking wounded. Oh my God. One person once said he used it in reference to his boyfriend, who became his husband, body count. Especially think about that. Oh gosh, he was a fun client. What are some other things? Walking wounded, psychic wounds, defensive, or protective. Let me see if any of you all, we got something in there. Karen said she's feeling personally addressed by this card today. Karen, thank you for saying addressed as opposed to something more nefarious, because as we all know, like, the tarot is not, it's not to us, it is for us. When this came up, oh my goodness, when we were talking about love, it might be in the episode this week, but as we were talking about, like love and gathering together, with the podcast, I always love to start, I like to start with a tarot pull for our collective and for our community. When the 9 of Wands came up, I was like, oh, whew, okay. The community has been through it in our love relationships. And that doesn't just mean romantic relationships. It can be familiar relationships, friendships, our relationships to our community, our kids' school, those weird relationships at work that kind of defy a definition. Like you're in a workspace with people. It's like we say like this is just work and you're just work friends, but no, it's a weird nebulous kind of place. That's a it's a love relationship too. And so that was the message. So I thought, you know what, we're gonna keep this message going. We're gonna investigate this and see if we can mine any gold from it. So what are some of y'all's keywords and phrases? I would really love to. Oh gosh, girl, that's so funny. It was like zoomed in. I'm done. You could see on the look on their face that they're done. Too much. That's all right. This card also to me. Here's a key phrase. Here's a keyword and a phrase. I have lived. I'm living. I'm living life. I got some experience behind me. I'm going through chapters, cycles. I'm experienced. So those are just a few keywords and phrases. Take a few more moments here because some of these keyword words and phrases may turn into something. Keywords and phrases around the Nine of Wands. Go ahead and get them out. This is also the part of the tarot journal where I remind everybody. I remind everybody you need your keywords and phrases because they're part of building a foundation. They may not be very sexy. Sometimes when you're just learning, you need about 3 or 4 key phrases. Some people actually get like a practice deck, like a cheap deck, and they write notes on the card. They'll write notes on it. Keywords and phrases, if you want to do something like that, that's an excellent thing to do. Excellent. But these are what you're using as you're building your foundation. Because when you first sit down to read for someone that is not already in a relationship or some kind of psychic connection with, or some kind of mental connection or emotional connection, like a friend or family member whose backstory you already know, you already know about decades of their life. When you sit down with a stranger and you're just beginning to get comfortable with making an intimate or a spiritual connection with someone, because it takes time and it takes practice, you have to learn protection. Sometimes you're going to be caught flat-footed. Sometimes you're going to be broadsided. Keywords and phrases are the thing that they're your life preserver. They're your life jacket. It may not be swimming, but it's definitely keeping your head above the water. It's keeping you safe. So that's why I like to give a little time and space to keywords and phrases. And now let's move on to what's happening in the picture. This is where it's a good idea it's great to have something like the tarot journal that I like to give you guys at the beginning of every tarot journaling room. Because it has like a little card-shaped rectangle over to the right where you can maybe even sketch out the card. You can sketch what's happening. That's our prompt. What is happening in this picture? Completely freestyle this however you want to do it. If you're at work or even in your car, like taking a moment, say it out loud. Describe what you see. Tarot is a spiritual tool and can be a part of your spiritual practice that doesn't require any words, really, or anything to be spoken aloud. But man, do we give it power when we do speak it aloud. So, right, everything you see from what's going on in the background, what's the weather, what do the different elements, quote unquote, look like in the card? Do we see any water? Yeah. In the form of clouds, right? Which can also be air. What colors do we see? What kind of clothing are the characters, the figures wearing? Do they look like somebody you know? Do they remind you of someone? What kind of ground is a person standing on? Stable, rocky, wet, marshy, hot? What's the expression on their face? So let's get into that. these are all, the things that I'm talking about and I'm guiding you through. These are just a tiny bit, a few characteristics and a few elements of how I like to teach tarot. And I took a bit of a break from teaching while I was handling my first big clients, like trying to create and launch new podcasts and, do all of the stuff that the parts of business that aren't necessarily fun, systems, scheduling, follow up with people, email, newsletter, all of that kind of thing. But teaching, I'm charging into late spring and summer teaching. And I'm asked all the time about workshops and opportunities to study with me. I've got a brilliant new workshop. The link is right up there. So just tap on it, save it for later, maybe after you're journaling. So for those of you that really like this stuff and like the sound of my voice and want to get a little deeper into tarot and use it in your, in your manifestation and your intention work, in your spell work, wherever it is you cast spells. This is a great opportunity to study with me, and it's on road opening, using the tarot to help identify and go after and be successful in new endeavors and opportunities. So that is right up there. And also, as folks are coming in, I'm going to take this as a moment to rinse and refresh. This is the Tarot Journal. I'm HALICUE Hannah, your friendly neighborhood tarot card reader here on social audio, Clubhouse, the Wisdom app, YouTube land, occasionally on Twitter. And we are journaling the Nine of Wands today. And the journal prompt that we're on right now is what's happening in the picture. So where I like to do a little deep dive, but before I do, everybody rinse and refresh, take a sip of water. Ooh, look at this. Look at this. This human being right here. Forgive the stuff falling in the background. Y'all can only imagine what my desk looks like. Karen, that was my my special timer, of course. I dropped it on the ground. Nine of Wands. We see a figure standing, holding a wand, looking watchful AF, looking off to the side, looking at the side. They may be wearing a weary expression, but their head is on a swivel. You guys may hear me say a saying that Black women and aunties and, moms and grandmas have been saying to me my whole life, like, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. This person is ready. They're ready. They're tired, but they're ready. Behind them, almost as if it's a fence, almost as if it's a fortress, or at the very least just a wall or a gate, there are 8 wands standing. And behind that wall of wands, there's a beautiful, like, green, hilly landscape with pretty billowing clouds in the background and a clear blue azure sky. It's very interesting as we, as we kind of describe what's going on. This is a fun part. This is in college, university, close reading is what they would call this if it was literature. What a beautiful pastoral background in the background. Look at all that peace back there. Look at how clear it is back there behind those boundaries. And even though this person's tired, a little weary, holding that wand, it's halfway support, but it's halfway like, and I'll use this too. Like, if I need to protect this peace, because that's what it looks like to me behind those boundaries. This is where y'all get what I'm getting at. It takes time. It takes lived experience. It takes experiences. I look at each of those wands as a little mini chapter in part 1 of a book. Battles that were passionate, hot, fiery, right? Because the wands are associated with fire. Look at the way those boundaries have been set up. one by one, and look at them blooming and blossoming. Look at the steadiness of the ground that the figure is standing on, at least in my card. And I can't wait to see everybody else's card too. We got some activity in the chat. Yes, Karen, the timer that only works when I actually look at it. Oh, Shannon. Shannon says they've been going through a lot alone and are now seeking support to get through next steps. Yes, ma'am. Life has been challenging. Enough is enough. Yes. After a little while, there's there's only so much more I'm going to deal with. And again, even look at the writing on your cards, 9 up there, wands at the bottom. If you've got like an old busted deck, go ahead, think about using it as a practice deck. Look at the words if it's on there on your card too. 9, we only have an ace, then a 2, and it goes through 10. So we know we're getting close to the end of something, but I love the stability and the steadiness and the solidity of the ground the figure is standing on. So that is what looks like it's going on in my cards. Let's look at the African Tizama Tarot. Now, goodness, we're going to get into symbols, so I don't want to get ahead of myself. Do not want to get ahead of myself, but we'll look at symbols coming up next, but I just want to make sure, and I want to, put a little punctuation and an underline under this, really, get into every element, every aspect. If you don't have time right now, the replay is going to be on for a little while, but then it's going to go up over on my YouTube channel. I call it HALICUE'S. Or it's going to go up in our private community over on Geneva's, the Tarot Power Soul private community, our home away from home, on Beyonce's internet. I will be extending you an invitation. I'll drop that link up there if you want to, keep the conversation going, because after every Clubhouse room, I like to go in, I like to share my cards. I want to ask everybody, how was the room for you? And it's a chance too where, you get to ask me, questions. Maybe questions that maybe you don't want up on Clubhouse, but if you're in a community of other, supportive, loving tarot lovers and enthusiasts, that's a place to go. So, and I'll put that link up as we go along. Maybe I'll put it up as we work on our next prompt, symbols, images that stand out. That's our next prompt. What are the symbols? What are the images that are standing out for you? This is full of one. This is full of them. All kinds of beautiful symbols. And start with the most, like each thing, if it's a noun, consider writing it down. I invite you to write it down, and then we can go over each one and get into what it symbolizes. Because when we do that, however we're journaling, like whether you're writing or listening, sketching, making art, like maybe you're even working with clay, maybe you're knitting, maybe you're sewing. When we do that and we talk about the symbols and we name them and we go over them, we're sort of embodying them. They're with us. They're in us. Hopefully we're getting them in our body in a good way. Or we're feeling, if we've got some anxiety and some feelings about it, where is it in the body? We're doing that. It's a way for us to have it so we can access it, so that when we're out, like living our lives, creating this spiritual, intentioned, empowered lifestyle, like you can look and you can see the symbols. You can look for these serendipities. You can see them. Oh, all right. There was a butterfly in the Queen of Swords. Right. What am I doing right now? Where am I? What does the butterfly mean? What does it mean to me? Oh, right. Maybe it's connected to, air and, me being a Queen of Swords. Maybe I don't feel like one, but maybe there's something about the butterfly that helps me communicate. So we see them in real life and we can start putting the signs and symbols together. And that's where the serendipities happen. That's where the magic starts to happen. So, what are the different symbols? What are the different symbols that we see? First, maybe let's get started with just the wands themselves. What do they mean? Fire, passion, me. To me, the suit of wands is really the suit of me. Like, this is about you. Rarely, maybe it's about somebody else if you're reading for somebody else, but I think of wands as like, what does this mean to me? What does this mean to, what does this mean to my passions, my creativity, my inspiration? What lights me up? What lights my fire? And, another one of the symbols I really like to think about and investigate is that bandage on the head, man. Mentally, because that's a bandage for real. That's an old school, that's an old school head wrap. Wounding, emotional wounds, mental wounds, wounds that are embedded in the brain. Sometimes, and if there's been healing, we remove the bandage, there's still that scar. Sometimes the scar is what we need to remember. Yeah, why did I get that wound? Like, well, oh yeah, let me remember that. What else do we see? 8 wands standing, right? You have everything you need to succeed. You're safe. You're learning to create boundaries, or you need to begin to explore what it means to have self-honoring practices. That's what one of my teachers calls them, and I love that. Boundaries. Distant mountain chain. Whenever we see mountains and hills, obviously that means we've got some stuff we're gonna, some journeys we're gonna go on. We got some things we gotta, bit of an uphill climb and battle. There's a path we should probably take, and it's not necessarily going to be easy, but I love looking at the mountains and the hills in this card because they're gorgeous and they're green and they're verdant. They seem gentle. Wand being held. What's the thing, what's the thing that gives you support? What's that relationship? What's that, what's that passion? What's that thing you like to do that lights you up? That's sustaining you. It's keeping you upright. It's also that thing that can be protective. You can use it. Man, if it's fire, you can use it to maybe make a little magic. Weary gaze. Some people call it different things, like auntie face. Some people call it resting bitch face, resting witch face. But to me, that gaze means well prepared. Sometimes a little overly watchful. Maybe waiting for the other shoe to drop. Sometimes it's, silently communicating how we really feel. I love that. Oh my gosh, this reminds me of Zoom face. No, oh man, some of the Zoom faces I used to see when this pandemic first happened. Some of the most entertaining Zoom faces. I posit Black and brown women, I think we have a special skill with the Zoom face. I think all of our sistering have the capabilities, but man, some of the Zoom faces I saw at the beginning of it was like a superpower, a way to communicate how we feel, how we're coming to the situation, making its own statement without saying a single word. Sometimes for me, it's like a safer way to communicate. And what else? Oh, of course, in my deck, growth. We see these beautiful flowers sprouting from the top. And that means there's growth, potential for growth. Something too can come from this. And in the beautiful African Tazama tarot, there's a bandage over the mouth of the central figure. I use different, I feel called to different cards and different decks for different reasons. Um, and so if I were pulling from the African Tazama deck, like, yeah, I would mean that I need to, I probably need to look at that, consider that for this particular client. This is important. It's different than the one on the right. If that makes sense, because maybe I choose that deck for a little something different. It's for teaching, not necessarily reading and, reading for someone. The figure in the African Tazama tarot also is holding a shield, holding one hand the wand, the other hand the shield. I love that image. I love this deck so much. They're not paying me, but the Tarot Power Soul community on Geneva, I put the link right up there, is also where I review new decks and I share new decks and I go through and I show you all the art. I tell you what I like about them. I tell you what the price point is. I give you an idea of what kind of investment this is, like in your tarot collection, your spiritual practice. So, yeah, this is one of my faves. This one and Tarot by Kara are two of my favorite go-to decks right now. And that's another yummy thing you get over in the Tarot Power Soul community on Geneva. Your invitation is right up there. Oh, and you all may want to get into it because we're having our first little book club tarot circle today. It's on Money Magic, this wonderful book by Jessie Susanna Carnatz. And it's not a regular book club. It's an awesome book club. It's like a cool book club. We're going to get our tarot cards out. We're going to talk about some of our favorite chapters, what we didn't like about the book. I personally love it. I love Jessie Susanna. I did a wonderful podcast interview with her. You can find that on my podcast, The Pillars, the Porch, and the Path. And Money Magic. Andy and I did a whole 3-part series on our podcast about prosperity and abundance work. So if any of you all are trying to make some exciting things happen with prosperity, check out those episodes in the podcast. Go back, binge them. And definitely get into Jessie Susanna's book. And if you already have the book, you want to talk about it, join us this afternoon. All right. And finally, guys, let's get to our final prompts. I got a little long today. What emotion is expressed? What emotion is expressed on the card? Oh, oh gosh, I can only, I can't sing. Thank goodness, I guess, because then I'd be talking and singing all the time. Y'all would be sick of me. But for me, I literally hear in the background, like if you ever went to a football game at a HBCU, my grandparents both went to Alcorn State. My dad went to Jackson State, Mississippi. And like you start to hear like we ready, like it's everybody, it starts slow, like the tubas kind of come in and then like everybody's like singing and chanting it. You can literally like look that up on YouTube and find that. It's like but that's exactly what I see, feel, and hear. Like we ready. We've been through it. We've gone through some things, but we are ready. Still standing. And to me, that feels exultant. That feels like, yeah, you thought you had me. You ain't got me. I'm gonna protect this peace is what I'm gonna do. It's an acknowledgement too. Like I feel like, when I first started getting into learning the tarot, like back right after I got married, like barely a year afterwards, I was just, I was a young grub, like a young woman. The tarot, until I, had the resources or the good sense to like get myself into therapy and get some healing. The tarot helped validate what I was feeling. I was brought up in an environment where literally children were told, like, children don't have feelings. Shut up. I want to hear about your feelings. Children don't have feelings. So for me, one of the reasons I love the tarot so much and how it's been a great part of my spiritual path and journey and why I want to support you if you think it might be a part of yours is how it made me feel validated. This was one of the cards when I saw it, I was like, yeah, I have gone through some things, but I am healing and I'm learning how to create peace. And I've gone through a lot, but I'm still here. And I'm going to protect this little piece of peace that I've created for myself on this spin around this third route from the sun. I like this card. This is a card that often comes up too when I'm working with survivors, like working with women, because y'all know I come to this from muggle work, like from a decade and a half long career, domestic violence, sexual assault, reproductive health care, crisis counseling, support group facilitation, program design, being in leadership roles on boards and fundraising. Like, so when I'm working with someone that's a survivor, this card comes up a lot. And it automatically gives me an idea of, oh, yeah, what they've gone through, maybe what they're still living in. So that's some of the emotion that I feel when I see this card. And finally, what's the greeting card message? Is there a song? I'm having a hard time coming up with a song. Normally songs like just come to me and bubble up, but is there like a saying or a figure in a TV show? Like I'm trying to think, like who'd I think of? Like 901, it's like a Florida Evans, Florida man, Florida went through, like was going through it. We could barely have an episode where like Florida wasn't going through it and like good times. Um, long suffer, someone that's like long suffering but still standing. What is that song? Like what is that piece of, relevant culture right now that encapsulates that for you? I hope everybody enjoyed themselves. If you enjoy the conversation around tarot, if you like talking about, these fun, juicy, spiritual, intuitive topics, come hang out with us over on the Geneva app. That is our home away from home. It is our tent fort. It's where we nerd out over the tarot. We share astrology memes. Our favorite tarot memes. I did our last moon circle there. It is a free private membership. It's free for right now. And everyone's going to be grandfathered in. So if you love tarot and you want a little bit more up and close and personal with me and my philosophy on tarot, how I use tarot in and around my home and in my community, come hang out with us over there. And of course, do not forget the podcast. The name of my podcast is The Pillars, the Porch, and the Path. It is everywhere you love to stream podcasts. I know that it is lonely out there for new mystics, new sexy seers and sorceresses. And I want you to feel in community. I want you to feel in sisterhood. And so my sister and I create The Pillars, the Porch, and the Path. And this month's episodes are on love magic. And like road opening, this is episode 2 of a series on love. The first episode is how to get your mindset right. The second episode is gathering all your correspondences. And the third episode is going to be the juicy stuff, the spell work, the rituals that we do and we recommend you get started with. And we guide you through that with a loving, sisterly hand and lots of laughter and lots of tarot cards and candle magic. So come hang out with us, like and share it, especially if you like the sound of my voice and you want to keep it going. Because sometimes we just need a soundtrack as we go about our lives. I've really enjoyed this week's episode of the Tarot Journal. I love this room. I love coming in here and being in community with you all. Don't forget to join the club and be looking for me a little bit later on today on the Wisdom app. And so I am going to count us out in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bye, y'all.